What's up, everybody? We're back with another $2 deck tech for 2DH, a format we started to create a new meta for Commander and make the game more accessible to players on a budget. All these cards are under $2, including Kaervek the Merciless. He's going to deal damage to a creature or a player whenever someone casts a spell. So one of the best things you can do is give this guy lifelink. A lot of people like to play Havoc Festival, which says players can't gain life, but there's so much upside with Kaervek having lifelink, and there's a lot of cards that do that I went the opposite direction, and I'm going for the long game here. So Homicidal Collusion's been in the deck for a while, and recently I was given a gift from Wizards. Deadly Wanderings will also give Kaervek Death Touch. Notice I'm only allowed to have one creature in play for these effects, so I only run about 6 creatures and some other junk that I'll show you in a minute. Whip of Erebos is also under $2 now, and it's a fantastic card. Gives all of my creatures lifelink, and the assistant commander of the deck, Heartless Hedetsugu, also loves lifelink. Instead of me taking 20 damage when I tap him, only the other players are going to end up losing life because I'm going to gain 80 instead of just losing 20. Flamekin Village is an auto-include whenever you have Heartless in the game. And Vampiric Link is just one more way to give lifelink, although it's not actually lifelink, so you'll gain life twice if you have lifelink because this is not errated. Murderous Redcap is a combo piece, and he's also just pretty decent in the deck, especially if he has Death Touch on ETB. Makes a great blocker in the early game, and you can go infinite with Unspeakable Symbol and one of the enchantments that buffs his power and gives him lifelink. The way it works is when he dies, he re-enters play with a -1/-1 counter, but I can pay 3 life to bounce that counter. Then I have Redcap deal damage to himself, which will be 4 or 5 damage, which with lifelink means I can repeat the process an infinite number of times. But wait, there's more. The final time he enters play, I can pay 300 life, add 100 1/1 counters, and then deal 100 damage to a player and take them out of the game. There's a couple effects that will allow me to kill the entire table with this, but 3-card combo is bad enough. I'll let you figure those out on your own. Paying life is also nice with Hedetsugu, because if I take my life below 20 and I put Phyresis on Hedetsugu and tap it, everyone dies but me as long as they have 20 or more life. This card's also great on any creature if your opponent doesn't have a blocker, because you can pay a bunch of life, add some counters, and then kill them with Infect. Phyresis also great with Kaervek. You can talk your other opponents into killing the player that's ahead by casting spells when Phyresis is equipped to him, or enchanted on him. The other big shenanigan piece here is Treasonous Ogre, one more way to control my life total, and he also adds tons of mana. So what are you going to do with 13 red mana on turn 4? Well, here's Soul Conduit, and that only costs 12, and now I'm back to 40, and you are at 1, and I have any number of ways to kill you after that. Soul Conduit, pretty funny card. Generally, I use it only with Treasonous Ogre, but I found that when this card's in play and people don't have an answer to it, they sort of stop attacking you, which is kind of the point in this deck. Shivan Gorge is my favorite way to kill people. I've probably killed 11 or 12 people with this. One time I did 2 people at once. That made me pretty happy. Have not quite unlocked that all 3 players yet. The way that I end up making Shivan Gorge work a lot is with repay in kind. So Deepwood Ghoul here is just one more way to pay life in this deck. He's also a pretty decent chump blocker. But what's really funny is when I surprise everyone by paying my life until I'm down to 1, and then I repay in kind and kill them with just about any piece of jank that you can find. I mean, if you're winning games of Magic with this, I mean, you got to be having fun, right? Doesn't this deck look stupid? So that's the shenanigans. And the combos, there's plenty of other accidental synergy in this deck, which is what makes it really good. Discard is one of the best ways to control people when you're playing black-red, aside from just killing their creatures. Pain Magnification means that whenever Kaervek burns you for 3, you're also going to discard a card, or whenever you have this in play, it kind of has that Edric effect where you're like, hey man, if you swing at him, he'll also have to discard a card. That's pretty good, right? Oppression, this is supposed to be kind of an oppressive deck. I don't really play this deck against new players, or people who are like just kind of joining the format. But against all my spiky friends here, they love seeing Oppression in play. It means that everyone is going to be playing off the top of their deck here pretty soon. And Painful Quandary adds to that. Make sure you stack the triggers Oppression first, so they have to discard, and then Painful Quandary, so if they don't have a card, they have to lose the 5 life. Possibility Storm. I'm not a huge fan of this card when people play it just for fun. The reason it's in this deck is this word down here that says cast. The fact that they have to cast the second copy means I get another Kaervek trigger and potentially another Pain Magnification or Oppression or Painful Quandary trigger. And if you can get any number of these things going at the same time, it's really miserable for your opponents to try to do anything. So if you're not already dead on board, it's going to take a while for them to get there, which is kind of the whole point of this stack of cards. Omen Machine shuts down all the card draw. Blue players hate this card. Oftentimes they're exiling, a counterspell or something irrelevant off the top of their deck that's a situational piece. And the key word again here is that player casts it. So they pretty much have to cast a spell unless it doesn't have a target, which again is going to trigger Kaervek and potentially one of these other things. And you kind of see where I'm going. I want to make the board state as hostile as I possibly can for creatures because they are just going to run me over if I don't. Aether Flash is one of the most underrated cards in Commander. It can shut down so many things. People just don't even realize it until it's in play and they look at their hand and they're like, oh, okay, I can't really do anything then, can I? Especially when you've got like a damage doubler like Furnace of Wrath in play. Now all creatures would take 4 when they ETB or Dictate of the Twin Gods. These are the Hedetsugu combo pieces I was telling you about earlier. Death Pits of Wrath is another very underrated EDH card. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, destroy it. So when you have these two in play simultaneously, no one gets things, which is very good for Rakdos. Now I can't cast Kaervek into this, but I don't really care because I'm just stalling out, making sure I hit my land drops, and then I'm just going to pick my spots later in the game where I can have huge effects. And take over the game from that point. Someone's going to blow these up eventually, and then I can cast other enchantments that they will hate. Spreading Plague is another card that just does not see enough play. People complain a lot about Derevi and other creatures that just spam the board and you have a hard time dealing with. But with Spreading Plague, all you have to do is have a creature enter play that shares a color, and you destroy all the other ones. And it's really not that... It's not that uncommon for me to see people cast creatures when they shouldn't with this and like blow up all their opponent's stuff and like everyone's laughing, and then the next thing you know, Kaervek is burning everyone out for the victory, or I'm pulling off a combo. People just don't intuitively know how to play against this deck. They know that these effects are annoying, but they don't necessarily realize that it's making my strategy very powerful. Storage Matrix really shuts down small creature overrun, and it also shuts down artifact ramp, which a lot of the control decks love to run in 2DH. There's so many cheap artifacts, and you just have to pick lands or artifacts or creatures. You get one, and I only run lands pretty much. I don't have a lot of creatures or artifacts, so it's great for me. Really, with this stack of cards, I'm trying to change the way that we have to play the game of Magic to a way that really suits my strategy and really slows down other people, but can be subtle sometimes. Portcullis isn't very subtle. There's 2 creatures in play. The third one is not going to be there. It's going to be exiled, set aside until someone can deal with this. It's often several turns before someone has an answer to artifact removal. In the meantime, they're trying to beat you down with like a Wood Elf and an Arbor Elf or something, and it's just not going to be enough to threaten you early in the game, and it gets you to the late game. If they do have big creatures, Meekstone, really strong against everyone but me. Love this card. Just does not see enough play. There's a lot of cards in this stack that do not see enough play, in my opinion. Another way for me to build the deck around these effects is to have these man lands like Lava Claw Reaches and Dread Sanctuary that can become a creature and then stop being a creature. It's pretty funny if someone casts a creature and you activate one of these and you have a Portcullis in play, and they're like, oh, now there's 2 creatures and my guy's under the Portcullis. Genju of the Spires turns one of your mountains into a creature whenever you want. Rakdos Key Rune and Kolaghan Monument also can become creatures. I mean, these are like not great cards, but in this situation where I only want one creature, and a lot of the time I'm casting board wipes and things like that, and I have all these enchantments, they're actually really strong. I've beaten people to death with a Rakdos Key Rune through like Meekstone, Portcullis, and Possibility Storm before, and they were just so frustrated. They took like 30 damage from it because I had the Homicidal Seclusion in play, so it was like a 6/2 first strike. Kolaghan's Monument, or Kolaghan's Command, excuse me. Nice little utility card. No reason really not to run this, just kind of can get you out of whatever you need. Sometimes I have to destroy my own artifact in a pinch, and just another direct damage and discard effect. Void is a card that you don't see very often. This is the kind of jank we're working with here in 2DH. I've had this be like a 5-for-1 or a 6-for-1 before, because sometimes you just randomly have a lot of artifacts and creatures that all share a CMC and none of them are yours, and you also get to take a look at your, whoever's winning, you get to look at their hand and make them discard something potentially. So pretty funny card. All right, so here's all the wrath effects. A lot of these are just going to be damage. So Slag Storm can also finish people off. Chain Reaction, Volcanic Fallout, Starstorm. All these things are really good with my enchantment that says whenever a creature is dealt damage, destroy it. And a lot of times I just need to wrath the board a few times in the early game to survive. Black and red have plenty of removal at their disposal. I've got some efficient 1-for-1 answers and Tragic Slip, Terminate, and a nice little 2-for-1 here with Ashes to Ashes that exiles creatures you might need to deal with. Withering Boon is in there to slow down those generals that really need to get going quickly. And Tribute to Hunger for Voltron, a little bit of life gain. Grab the Reins has some more direct damage, can be a 2-for-1. You grab your opponent's thing and then block their other thing with it. And then Decree of Pain just for top of the curve board wipe and to get me back in the game. Lets me draw some cards. Well, if that wasn't enough hate for you, I've got more. There's Rakdos Return. I mean, playing this on turn 6 and just getting the last 4 cards out of someone's hand, setting them way back in the game. Really love this card. Also, you want all the direct damage you can get when we're playing stuff like Repay in Kind or whatever. I need plenty of win cons. Skull Wren's also 2 damage, but 2 cards at random from your opponents can completely devastate their line of play. Sire of Insanity, why not? Let's all play by Rakdos rules, where we're just going off the top of the deck because there's no good card draw. And Inferno Titan just for value. Again, the enchantment that gives Death Touch makes this guy just insane when he comes into play. You can kill 3 things, and just a really nice beater to have as a backup plan. Burnished Heart for ramp, Faithless Looting for filtering, Underworld Connections for a little card draw. Outpost Siege is nice because it gets around oppression. You can cast the card on your hand that you drew and then cast the exiled card. It also gets around Omen Machine. And you can potentially say dragons and then go off with your Murderous Red Cap and kill the entire table. Oops, I won again. A lot of accidental stuff in this deck. I just love it. Staffing in, 1 damage to creature player. Another way to finish the game on that Treasonous Ogre start I talked about with Soul Conduit, and some great card draw. When you get to 80 life off Hedetsugu, no one's going to come back if you have Greed in play. You're just going to have so many cards, so many answers, and then, of course, you're going to run a couple of tutors in black to go find the board wipe that you need or the combo piece to finish off. This deck is weak to Counterspell, and it is worth running both Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast in the deck. This can completely shock a control player and just make it so their answer is not an answer, and you're just going to win the game from that point. In the events that they are dead cards, there's enough discard that it's really not that big of a deal to run these. It's definitely worth it. Of course, you're going to run Animate Dead and Dance of the Dead so that Kaervek costs 2 the second time instead of 7, or you can get back an Ogre or a Sire of Insanity or whatever awesome thing is in a graveyard. And I absolutely love this card. I don't see this card played very much, but it's a great answer to a board wipe or a removal spell where your opponent finally top-decked a way out of your Kaervek lockdown. Surprise, he's actually bigger now. Emsa Mischief, another great answer. The black misdirection. You don't see this effect a lot in a red and black deck, so people don't really expect it. And finally, I got to give a shout out to Crypt Incursion, probably the jankiest card in the deck. I won a game the other day because somebody had a Murderous Redcap hitting their graveyard, and I was at 1 life. I was going to lose, and I cast this at instant speed, and I gained 34 life, exiled a bunch of their stuff, including their Murderous Redcap, and pulled ahead for the win. I really like this card. So that is the Kaervek, the Merciless deck. If you want to know more about 2DH, feel free to join our Facebook group in the link below. Thanks for watching, everybody.